Mouse N Joypad.com bring you another original. It's fucking great.
Hello and welcome to a Mouse N Joypad interview. My name is Scott Davidson. I'm one of the editors at the site. I got the chance to speak with Ricardo Cesteiro from Camo 101 regarding their upcoming title, Syndrome. This is what Ricardo had to say about the title.
Syndrome is a survival horror game that was made inspired by old classics. We wanted to recreate the vibe of older games, like, for example, Resident Evil. It's one of the inspirations for this game, even though our game is played in first person, but the kind of game is the same. The player has to find out what's going on. He can find weapons and he can fight, but the ammunition is always very limited, so the player must choose wisely when to spend them. And well, it's based, it has a sci-fi setting. It's based on a spaceship. So yeah, it's an horror experience that we're trying to create.
You said that Resident Evil is an influence to Syndrome. Is there any particular Resident Evil game? Because that's a franchise that has changed a lot over 20 years.
Yeah, I mean the original games, the first and the second episodes maybe. After the fourth, I think the game lost a bit of its original setting. I played all the games. Yeah, I'm a fan of Resident Evil, and the latest I liked Resident Evil 5 and 6, but I felt they were more action games than really horror games. There was a lot of shooting, explosions, helicopters blowing up.
Punching a boulder as well, I seem to recall. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it became a bit too much.
Yeah, that's when it went a little bit too far.
Yeah, the last game it reminds me of a Michael Bay movie.
I can see that.
Yeah, it really has too many explosions and too many things going on, buildings coming down. Well, it's different. It's fun, but it's different. It's not a Resident Evil game.
So you're focusing then more on the hardcore horror elements from the franchise rather than the run and gun action of the later games.
Yeah, we want the player to be scared, and if the player is to be scared, he can have a machine gun and a grenade at his disposal. The weapons must be really limited, and the enemies must be powerful. So yeah, that was one of the main things that we wanted to have here in the game.
Now, can you tell us about the plot or the storyline of Syndrome?
Without spoiling, the game is about a guy that wakes up on a spaceship and he doesn't remember a thing of what happened. Shortly after, he finds out that most of the crew is dead, and then he meets two other guys over the radio that try to help him, but each one of them tells him a different version of what happened. Adding to that, he's also suffering from hallucinations, so he never knows what's real and what's not, and who's telling the truth and who's not. He has to find out what happened and find a solution to the problem.
Okay, now that does actually bring me on to an interesting point. You mentioned the two different people that he speaks to that tells him different things. Have you factored any choice-based gameplay into Syndrome? Is there one of these people that you can side with against the other, or is it a rather preset destiny for the character?
Yeah, it's a preset destiny.
You're developing Syndrome in conjunction with the Oculus Rift, is that right?
Yes.
Talk me through the VR aspects of the game.
Well, we already have the game running on Oculus, but it's still not at 100%. We have a few issues that we still need to solve, namely the text that appears on the game, some icons of interaction, some small things it's mostly related to the user interface. But yeah, other than that, we already have the game mostly running on Oculus.
Have you showcased the Oculus to the public?
No, not yet. We want to show it when it's completely working.
This is going to launch on PC and consoles. Are you going to factor in the Xbox One's Kinect in any way?
That's a good question, but I don't think so. It's not on the plans.
What has been the toughest thing for you guys during the development of this?
What is the toughest thing? There were several tough things, but I think the most tough it was that we are a really small team, and we wanted to create a really cool game, and we wanted to add a lot of stuff. So yeah, I think it was the size of the team and the size of the game that we wanted to make. It was a bit hard for 3 guys, but see, we've done it.
And have there been any major changes to the concept of the game or the execution of the game during the development process?
Yeah, when we first designed the story and the levels, the game was a bit shorter. And then when we started playing it, we thought that it was too short. So we had to expand a bit the story and the levels, and we had to go back to the drawing board. So yeah, the major change was increasing in the gameplay of the game.
Did you do that by making a larger area, or did you go in and change some of the plot points and pull it out that way?
It was both. We added one more level of the ship, I think, and we had more story elements. We didn't want the game to feel like the gameplay was just artificially extended. So yeah, the story had to make sense with the things that we added. So yeah, it's kind of a challenge. Yeah.
I've played the preview last month, I believe it was. I've got to say it is looking pretty good. My heart was racing for pretty much the whole time. One of the things that I did notice is there's very little hand holding.
Yes. At the start, we did think about having an arrow pointing to the objective or something. But we decided that we really didn't want to do that. We want the player to explore and to find out by his own means what's going on. We do tell the objective, but the player needs to find out what he has to do there.
Okay, now that brings me on to the next question. With games of this nature that don't have waypoints, I found I was backtracking a fair bit through the preview. I was going to the wrong deck, and then I had to go back and run to the other side of the map. What, if anything, are you guys doing to try and combat the repetition? Because repetition, it makes people comfortable with the environment, and that is just complete poison to a horror game. So is there anything you're doing when people might be revisiting the same areas, 3 or 4 times before they find the right place?
So right now we have been showing the game in several events, and we've gathered a lot of feedback, and there were a couple of rooms where we saw that the players were unable to find what they had to do. So in some areas we are making the objectives a bit more visible and more clear, so that the player doesn't walk around too much, or else he gets bored. So yeah, we're making some of the things a bit more clear to avoid the backtracking.
And what other feedback have you received from people that have play tested it?
It's been really good. Most of the people that try the game, they always play for half an hour or 40 minutes. It's really good in the game show. So yeah, everyone's been showing a lot of interest.
Roughly, how long do you think it will take people to beat the game when it's released fully?
We've had some guys that finished the game in 12, 13 hours, but I would say the average would be around 10 it depends on the style of gameplay, but yeah, I think that 10 is a good number.
It is. I mean, one of the more successful horror games for the past couple of years was Alien Isolation, and I think one of the big complaints with that is it did linger past its peak, and it did lose some of the impact. So it sounds like 10 hours is a good figure for a game of this nature.
Yeah, I did play Alien Isolation, and I felt the same. I felt like, yeah, it's time to end this.
Yeah, just finish the game already.
Yeah. So yeah, we didn't want the game to be too short, and we didn't want it to be too long. So yeah, I think it's a good length.
Going back to a point you made earlier about the enemies being difficult and weapons being fairly scarce, how else have you tried to balance the different aspects of combat and the horror element? Because it is a fine line to walk.
Well, the player, he can find several different weapons. The most basic weapon is a tool that he can attack, that he can bash the enemies with. It's quite effective against the most basic enemies, but it's not that effective against the most powerful ones. Against these, you must use guns, and guns have very limited ammunition. So it's basically balance between the amount of enemies and of ammunition that the player can find. And you can always avoid combat. You can throw a bottle to make noise and attract the enemies there. So yeah, most of the times the player can choose if he attacks or if he moves using stealth. So yeah, it's a balance between stealth, combat, ammunition, amount of monsters.
What type of monsters can we expect to see?
So most of the monsters have a special ability, let's say. We have the basic enemies that are slow and it's not that strong. We have a guy that's really fast and strong but blind, so the player can move slowly past him. We have another guy that can go invisible. We have another guy that affects the player's vision, and some others that I'm not going to specify. But yeah, the toughest are really tough, and the players should avoid them if possible.
When you're developing a game like this, there can often be issues with having to compromise on quality for a launch both on PC and on consoles. Is there anything that you've had to alter or change in order to launch it on all platforms?
Well, we are actually working with another company that's doing the port of the game. So they've been working closely with us. But I don't think there's been anything that's had to be compromised. And the game is running smoothly on consoles, so luckily there wasn't anything that we needed to change.
And on a personal level, what is your favourite part or aspect of Syndrome?
I think the setting of the game and the story. I think it's really compelling.
And do you have a release date for Syndrome?
Our release date, we were thinking in July, but we're not sure if that's going to change or not, because the console version is a bit late in its development, and we probably want to release all platforms at the same time, but we are not sure yet. We just hope that everyone enjoys the game and the story and everything that we've created here. We've got inspirations from a lot of places, movies, games, books. So it's a mix of ideas, and I hope everyone enjoys it.
If you enjoyed this interview and you want to see more, please like and subscribe, and follow Camel101 on Twitter for all your Syndrome needs.